Sanbonani Dumelang and welcome to another episode of the Coming Out podcast. And all we're here to do today is to really just give courage, give hope, and give a voice for people who really need one, and of course to encourage them they should come out, because it's not easy. It's not easy at all. By the way, na kalina ke nabusi mara baba khulu baba dese barike the Queen of Pitori, and I'm hanging out with two wonderful ladies today. I've got Jackie right here.
Hi, Christine.
Thank you so much for coming through.
You're welcome.
And Ntswaki as well, who's a social
Hi,
worker. Now, I'm going to start with you, Ntswaki. Can you just really give us a little bit of information in terms of where you grew up and what it was like growing up there?
Okay, I was born and raised in Soweto, Netherlands, and my upbringing was okay. I later left and went to join my parents in Limpopo, and then I went to the University of Venda, where I studied social work, and then I came back home.
Okay. Was there a specific burning reason why you wanted to get into social work?
Not really, because at that time I had another career choice, but then, my parents saw it fit that I'm this kind of a person, so I should follow that path, of which I'm glad that I did, because I'm enjoying it now.
Okay. And at which point did you realize, you know what, I love what I'm doing. I actually enjoy this.
It wasn't my first day, because when we started off, we had to do practical work. We would be given cases that we need to do and follow up, be it community work, case work, or group work. And then that's when I found out this is actually nice. It's actually nice leaving someone with a smile, someone who came with a problem, and at the end of the month or the case, then you see that this family is actually in a good space that they were when we started off with the case. So it's actually nice, going to bed at night knowing that I did something nice for someone and with no payment. It's actually nice.
What a fulfilling job, yeah. That's really wonderful. Jackie, I know you do a lot of work for your community as well, but tell us a little bit more about where you're from and your upbringing.
Yes, I was actually born in the Eastern Cape in Sky. My parents relocated to Joburg when I was around 3 years old.
Okay.
I grew up in the notorious gangsters' paradise of Johannesburg, which is Westbury, Nuclear, Coronationville, that area. My upbringing was, I would say, wonderful. Because yes, my parents sheltered us. We were very sheltered children because of the community we lived in. But yes, I had a great childhood. I went to my local primary school, I went to my local high school. And yes, it was wonderful. And then when, before I completed school, we moved to a suburb called Enidal. I'm not sure if you're really familiar with that area. Which was the contrast where I grew up, because that was like a farm. My friends used to tease me going to school and say, bring us some fresh laid eggs and some fresh cow milk and so forth. So yeah, needless to say, it was very different, but very welcoming, because I'm a loner, should I say. So I enjoyed it very much. I made new friends, and yeah, it was wonderful.
Okay. And I know you both currently work in the GBV space currently. Now, what I really want to understand is how you got exposed to the space, Jackie.
Well, actually, in our local community, which is South Hills in the south of Johannesburg, in our local newspaper, there was an advert for vacancies for volunteers needed for the VEC room, which is the Victim Empowerment Center, which is also known as the Victim Friendly Room. So, well, I thought, what, let me just take a chance. You never know. Because I'm quite passionate because of my past experience, my past trauma. I'm quite passionate about helping women, women that are victims. So I said, what, even if it's volunteer, let me get my foot in the door. You never know where it might lead me. So needless to say, I went for the interview, and there were 4 of us that were shortlisted, and we were then employed.
Okay.
In our local, my local community, which is more frequent police stations.
Okay. Now, when you say past experience, is it okay for you to just tell us what these experiences or this experience was?
Okay, so my first experience to domestic violence with GBV was at the age of 16. Yes, we were in Charles party, myself and my friends, and I'm sure that my drink must have been spiked that day because I just all of a sudden didn't feel good, felt nauseous, felt dizzy, had a headache, and I said to my friends, you know what, take me home. And this house, mind you, wasn't very far from ours. It was just basically around the corner. I could have went home myself, but it was past midnight. We had a few drinks, we had a few ciders, and and all of a sudden it felt very strange. And I wasn't in my normal senses, my complete senses. That's what I remember. And there was this guy at the party that was kind of very flirtatious with me. And now, because of me being a late bloomer, I got a very sheltered upbringing. So my mom used to always say to us, don't look at boys. Boys touch you, you get pregnant. You know? So I was very scared, and I was a late bloomer compared to all my friends. And I was basically very naive. And there was this guy at the party, really, he was very flirtatious with me. I kind of brushed him off, but I think he got, I don't know, maybe upset thinking back that, you know what, oh, she's playing hard to get, you know, who is she after all, and so forth. This is what I feel, or thought about later on in my life. Because I brushed him off, maybe he thought, well, let's teach a lesson or something. I don't know what goes on in men's guys' minds, you know, as to why they do such things to women.
Even though he has the right to do it.
Yes, exactly. So, most of the people had left the party by then. And this guy said I must see his room. I went into his room, which I think that was my first mistake I made. He's not going to his room. He said, come and see my room, come and see the posters, you know, looking for my stackies, and you know, I'm this boy, I'm that guy, and I'm very popular, and so forth. And you know, before I knew it, I was almost half dressed, and that's what it happened. And funny enough, after that, when I was done, he was like, should I give you a walk home? You know? And I was like, I was very traumatized, I was frightened, I was afraid, and I was like, yes, please give me a walk home. Left me at the gate, kissed me on my cheek, I went inside the house, and
Did you realize at that point that you had been taken advantage of?
No. Thinking back, no, because most of my friends, you know, I wouldn't say my friends were promiscuous, but they really had sexual experiences by then, and I thought, oh, maybe it's normal. Maybe this is what happens. You know, maybe this is how it should happen. So, yeah.
Now, Ntswaki, I know that, you know, you're a social worker currently in the GBV space, and I can imagine the stories that you hear. I mean, how do you then deal with young people of all ages actually, you know, who have not even realized that this is what happened?
Okay, just to clarify on that one first, I work with, let's say, 18 and above.
Okay.
That's practically still, right?
Yeah.
So in most cases, they understand what had happened to them, and they understand and they still know the kind of assistance that they need when they come forward to our office. So we use what we call the client self-determination. Okay, a client comes and brings the story, like, you know what, this is what happened between me and my boyfriend.
Okay.
And then I can't just say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. You know, I would need to hear from her, like, okay, this happened, I understand, but then what do you want to see happening?
Okay.
And
So
then
you leave it in their hands to decide.
Yes, and then in case they don't know the options that they have, I'll have to lay out for them, like, okay, in this case, you have an option of opening a case, you have an option of getting a protection order, and then there's also counseling that I will be providing to you for this period of time, so they get to choose which one they want.
Okay. And as a social worker, what have you seen to be the most common one? Because there are so many cases of GBV that are actually like people don't even open cases, people don't even talk about it in most cases. So I mean, what have you seen with the clients and the people that you've spoken to?
Most of the clients that I've had, it will be domestic violence cases, in a sense that it will be mostly couples or like those who are maybe dating and married couples. So in that case, the one that comes forward, that is the victim, would ask for the perpetrator, the boyfriend or the husband, to be brought in, and so that they can vent and air out everything that's been happening at home, and they want to address in that space. So I would write in a calling letter to the person and require them to come into the office at this time, at this date, in connection with this person. So when they come in, I also brief them that, this person came forward with this kind of problem, then I would allow the client to say whatever that they feel and they want to say to the partner. So then I actually allow them to talk. I'm just there as the middle person. I'm not taking sides, just for them to engage. You know what, this is what you did to me, I did not like it. And then he also responds. And then I also come in, with professional advice. As a couple, this is what you're going to do, and I would require you to do this. Be aware of the law that abuse. You cannot abuse a woman. Also, a woman cannot abuse a man. Because with couples, you find that maybe it's so many elements, like there'll be financial abuse, emotional abuse, that the other person doesn't notice that they're doing. So I make them aware, like, you know what, I listened to both of your stories, and that's what I picked up. Then I laid out for them, and then I also give them solutions that, like, for in case of problem solving, you have this problem, you don't go leave it out and or maybe just brush it aside. This is how you're going to solve it going forward. And then after that is done, I don't notify. I'll make follow-ups for the next 3 or 4 months. Like I just call both of them individually every month just to check up, okay, how you doing, how is your partner relating to what you said, and how you using the advice that I gave you, and then, yeah.
Okay, I like that approach because it gives a sense of power, a sense of, okay, this is what I want to do in my situation. There's a big decision-making factor that comes from there, So, Jackie, when did you come to terms and make a decision that, okay, you know what, this is actually what happened? When did it dawn upon you?
My first GBV traumatic incident, sexual incident that I had. I got married. I found myself getting married at a young age. I got pregnant at 19 and I got married at 20. I was married to my ex-husband for 7 years. 2 years into the marriage, he started abusing me. Like Ntswaki highlighted, there's many forms of abuse. There's the sexual abuse, psychological, financial, emotional, and so forth. I was married for 2 years when it started. I didn't know the signs. I was young. And back then, I'm talking about the early 90s. We've come a long way since then when it comes to exposing the different forms of abuse in our community. Also just the fact of just speaking out and saying, I'm not good, things are not good, I'm unhappy. Reasons why, you get professionals like Ntswaki where you can actually go to. Years ago though, it was kind of taboo actually for a woman or a girl to say that, what, my husband's doing such and such and such and such. For the sake of people judging the family, not just yourself and your husband or your kids, the extended family as well. And there's also a sense of wanting to protect the father of your kids, protect that image, protect your kids, not wanting your mother to be ashamed of you, why are you allowing this to happen? You can get out, you can do something. And then again, I come from a family that didn't share especially matters like that. You know, any type of problems, you're not allowed to say anything to anybody, no one should know. Just sweep it under the carpet and move along. So, yes, I was very isolated, I was alone. Maybe that's why I kind of, I wouldn't say condoned, but I was also afraid, very afraid to leave, to speak out, because when I would bring it up to my ex-husband, he'd be like, most of the time he'd bring me flowers, I'm sorry.
And just
The
keep it
famous
moving.
words, yes, I'm sorry, and keep it moving. If not, if there's no sorry, it's like, well, you deserved it. Why did you say this? Why did you do that? Why did you dress like this? Why did you talk to that person? You know, there's always reasons. And I thought it's normal. I thought that all women go through this. And, yeah.
When did it get to a point where you're like, I'm enough? I've had it.
You know, Busi, it took me 5 years in a marriage. I think the point of enough came when I was married off. When I was 3.5 years into the abuse, I attempted suicide. I went to my mom's house. I took all my mom's tablets. Like I said, my mom was a professional nurse, so she always had a tablet for anybody that walked into the house.
Absolutely.
You know, so I went to her house, I emptied all the containers of medication, I put it in my bag, I went home. I made sure my kids were not there though. My kids were away for the weekend, visiting extended family members. It was on a Friday, I'll never forget, it was around 3 o'clock. I must have taken, I don't know, my mum said maybe 50 tablets. Yes, different kind of tablets, antidepressants, painkillers, everything.
Sure.
Woke up in ICU. I woke up in ICU and
And it's not easy to.
And I'm sorry, just give me a moment.
No. Okay, so you opened your eyes and your mom was sitting next to you.
Holding my hand. And come on. And she was like my child. What happened? And I said, Mom, I'm just done. And she was like, what's going on? I don't get it, I don't understand. And that's when I stopped and I said, told her everything that's happening, you know. And she couldn't believe it because my mom was educated, she was a professional, and she was like, I raised you to be confident, independent, strong. I don't believe that this had happened to you. And why didn't you say anything, you know. But it was the shame as well of also disappointing my mom. The fear of being a failure, you know, or feeling like a failure. And yeah, I woke up in ICU and I must spend a week there. My mom said she'd take care of the kids. I said, please, no one knows. Please don't tell my kids that.
So at
I
this
was going
point,
to
it's
leave
only
it.
your mom who knew.
Yes, at this point she doesn't know. And got out of hospital. Carried on as a life is normal. You know, back to the same cycle.
My goodness.
Yeah, but that to me was a breaking point and made me realize that, look, you've got kids. How could you have even thought about leaving them behind? And girls are my dad. So that to me was literally the moment when I realized, no, this is natural, this is not normal. You need to get out. But then it took me again another 4 years to actually physically leave.
Okay. I'm so sorry for your experience, you know. No one deserves to go through something like that. And I can imagine that, you know, even with the reasons that you've given, it's not easy to speak, to say anything, you know. So, Ntswaki, from your perspective, I mean, how do you encourage survivors to actually start talking to someone about their experience, to anyone?
Well, I always encourage them to find someone that they can trust and they can talk to. And if there's no one that you can actually talk to, you can do journaling or keep a diary. Like that's also a form of talking, but in that space, a paper won't talk back to you, but it's actually fulfilling to relieve of that burden and write, or you talk to someone, either you find a friend or a family member that you trust, or even as social service professionals, you just come to our offices. If you need to talk, we're there, we listen, and we give you options that you have, and yeah. Sometimes it helps just to talk, even if it's not about really opening a file or doing investigative work, but just to listen. That's what we are there for as social workers and social auxiliary workers.
Okay. I think that's really wonderful because I've known that to be a very, very big problem, And now we are living in a country where this is a very, very pivotal issue that we're dealing with, And what I want to find out also from the both of you is that yes, you guys are working in this space, and that's wonderful because you get to help people who really, really need it at the time. But what do you feel in terms of how the system, the government is set up in order to help GBV survivors?
Well, our government is really trying because now they have formed partnership with NGOs, like the one that we work for, Kulusa's Social Solutions. There's also POA, there's also shelters like Ikai Temba, where it's sort of like a form of a group of stakeholders that specifically deal with GBV. And then there's also SAPS, there's courts also involved, that when a client comes, we will be the receiving at the receiving end, and then we assess the client. We find out, okay, this client maybe needs a protection order from this person. Then that's how the process goes through SAPS, and then it goes to court. That if this client needs shelter, they need to be removed from the place that they're staying with, then that's when we involve shelters like the Kaya Timber. We refer them there for I think they stay there for 6 months. Yes, for temporary accommodation, where they'll also get social workers there. There'll also be programs that will empower them and prepare them for when that 6 months ends, they know how to stand up for themselves when they're out. So the government is really trying, and it's also on our side is providing trainings to social service professionals that this is what we've noticed that GBV is taking this curve. So this is how you're going to react. So that's how they're constantly training us, just to keep up to date and step ahead with GBV. And then we also do awareness campaigns where our victim supporters and our social auxiliary workers, they go out to the communities, they engage with the members, they inform them that this is what's currently happening, and this is how you notice that you're in a cycle of violence, and this is how you get out, this is when you report, and this is what's going to happen when you go report. There's information, and there's us also who provide the information. Sometimes we also go to radio stations, we also broadcast what we do and what is happening. So the government honestly is really trying to tackle GBV.
Okay. And Jackie, from your perspective in terms of really just the same question, and with this one, I'd like you to really speak from both perspectives. Someone who's experienced it, but also someone who's working in the space currently.
Okay, for myself, with my personal experience, I didn't really actively seek counseling or anything like that. I did speak to our priest at church about it, and we went for marital counseling in the church. But unfortunately for me, my life had died at that point, so yeah. It was a very messy divorce. We went through divorce because we fought for custody of my kids, and it was ugly, it was prolonged, it was messy. thank God I was left with my girls, so I'm happy for that. Today, I feel that, yes, Ntswaki is correct when she says the government is really doing everything they can on providing resources for women of domestic violence. The only thing that I will question for myself, and then knowing women out there, friends, neighbors, members of the community, when you leave, femicide is so prevalent in this country.
Yeah.
And yes, it's easy for people to say, just leave me. It's not that easy.
It's not.
Because you think about your safety. If you have kids, you don't want to be killed tomorrow and your kids are left motherless as well. So there's a lot that you actually need to think about when people say leaving. Okay, yes, there's resources, there's shelters, there's this and that. But to be honest, we get psychotic men in this day and age. They'll do anything and everything to find out where you are. If you're working, they'll go to your job. I've been through it. And it's amazing how, well, yes, they say go to the police station and charge, but then what? What happens after that? Because your life is basically at risk here. So men threaten to kill you, they threaten to kill you and the kids, wipe out the entire family. And, I just feel that there needs to be emergency services rendered to women in this country. Like, you just go anonymous, you go off the grid. You must not know where you are, who you're communicating with, just for a little period of time, because I think in my own experience especially, men get so angry as to, why do you want to leave me? So to answer your question regarding especially also safe houses and so forth, yes, SAPS is doing everything they can, but as Ntswaki also highlighted, once SAPS has done their job and their administration, it then goes to the court system and the justice system. And then SAPS has basically done their job. They arrest the perpetrators eventually, but then it goes into the justice system. And I believe when it comes to GBV and domestic violence, this is only my opinion, I don't know, I'm not a professional, but I think the sentences are just too light. I think that is why GBV is so prevalent in our society today, because I don't think they get enough. They get enough punishment. They don't get a punishment that they actually really deserve, and also they don't get rehabilitated in prison. I doubt it, because like a rapist, for example, his sentence will be remanded. He gets out on bail. He does the same thing tomorrow. He gets out on bail, he goes and kills his partner and will put him in prison, or hospitalizes her, for example.
Doesn't make sense at all.
So it doesn't make sense. Yes, the government is doing everything they can, but I think they were too lenient when it comes to these matters. Women need to be protected. Girls and women in this country need to be protected, and something needs to be done. Because in my opinion, it's how much worse can it get? It's like really bad. And then, like I said to you, Busi, as well, as many perpetrators that are out there in our country, I do believe that there are many, many good South African men.
Sure.
Good, strong, solid, God-fearing men, family-orientated men. And I would like to say that, let these men come forward as well and stand by us women, because we can't do this alone. We cannot. Men need to protect us women. Yes, we might be to have 1 million women march to wherever,
Sure.
but we need the men to also stand by us and next to us and say, you know what, we've had enough. This can't continue. We need to protect our women.
It's very, very important.
Men from all race groups, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter whether you've experienced it personally, on hand, or you know somebody, but there's no one in this country that doesn't know what domestic violence and GBV is. And the amount of women and girls that are getting raped and killed and murdered and put into ICU on a daily basis.
And it's scary that that's how common it actually happens.
It's very common, and I believe that there are many good men out there, and we do need them.
Absolutely.
You know?
I totally agree with that. And I like that you also touched on rehabilitation, because I wanted to ask you, Ntswaki, I mean, prior to you getting into the GBV space, you know, as a social worker, you actually worked with offenders. You know, do you believe that a person who is a GBV sort of perpetrator can be rehabilitated? Is that something that's possible?
They can be rehabilitated if the resources that are being used correctly, and that person is also willing to change. Because in as much as I can be this learned professional and I have all these resources, but then it comes from him. But are you willing to be this new person? Are you willing to respect women, to protect women? But then if it's something that they're not ready to do, then what we do, it will be in vain.
Absolutely. How do we then, you know, come together and bring perpetrators to that state of mind? Like, what is it that we can do as civilians, as citizens, to actually drive the thought process to, you know, go closer to that?
When coming to perpetrators, I think we as women and the society, if we stand against GBV, then we have to protect ourselves. And then when they're ready to see the light that, you know, this is not the life that I want to live, that's when they'll cross over. But then we cannot force them to come over. It has to come from them.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Oh, okay, okay.
These people are difficult, you know. Like, you find someone who's in prison has been there for like 8 years, but they're still bloating and walking around and stuff.
Yes.
They're not yet responsible.
Yeah.
Even after 8 years.
So, like, there's a sense of pride attached to it. Okay, so we'll
Okay, action.
like about rehabilitation, so you can pick up from, I don't know if you do remember or if I should ask the question again. Or I can do that.
Oh no. Should I start?
Yep.
Well, so yeah, perpetrators need to find it in themselves first that now this is where I'm stopping and I'm changing. But then if they don't have that willingness to change, then we can actually force them to change because it will be in vain.
And from the both of you, you know, like, I would like you to speak as a social worker. I mean, there's GBV survivors, victims, people who are going through it right now, who are watching this, you know. So from your professional experience, what would you say to them in order for them to start dealing, healing, and actually coming to terms with what has happened?
Well, healing, you know, there's many ways that people heal. But then I'd suggest that they reach out to their local social workers who would assist them through that journey. Because, you know, there's some people who would find comfort in alcohol use, which will only just worsen the situation. But if you go out and get professional help, which our social workers, they're free. So you don't pay for their services, you just walk in, you make your appointment, and then they will gladly assist. And what I like with GBV now is that over Gauteng and Pitori, in most police stations, there are victim-friendly rooms where you find me as a social worker, and there's a social auxiliary worker, and there's a victim supporter. A very nice room which is victim-friendly, and you get nice professionals that would assist you. You just go there for that counseling, even if you don't involve the perpetrator, but then for you to receive your individual counseling and to be linked with other resources that could help you on your healing journey. So I'd advise them to make use of our victim-friendly rooms, which are based at police stations.
That's wonderful, and I think, you know, some people may not even know that, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad that you're bringing it up, because sometimes it's a lack of knowledge of not knowing what you have access
Yes,
to.
because people have that mentality that, you know, if you want to see a social worker, you have to go to a clinic or to a hospital or straight to DSD. But then now they are also available at police stations. You know, if you don't feel like opening a case, you can just come and speak to us. But if you want to open a case, then the assistance is just right there, a few steps away. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jackie.
Yes, Twilight of Ntswaki said, there are resources out there. I wish there were more, but they are available, and there's places women can turn to, like our victim-friendly rooms at the police station where I'm based at the moment. Yes, so the only issues is sometimes I think that, these things don't really happen during office hours at times. Weekday during office hours. They usually happen after hours and also over weekends and so when we're not available. But that's when SAPS take over. When we're not there, SAPS take over, and then they do what they need to do to help the victim, no matter what time the victim comes in.
Okay.
And then from there, if the victim needs counseling, they always come to offices for counseling if needed. And most of the time they do come back for counseling, because counseling is always needed.
Okay. I love what you're saying. And just finally wrapping it up, Jackie, what words of strength will you give to someone right now who's going through a very, very bad, violent, abusive experience?
Oh wow. Words of advice and encouragement I can give young girls and women out there. You're not alone. You might feel that you are, you might feel isolated, you might feel that there's no way out. There's always a way out. Just build up the strength and the courage, because you have it within you. Don't let anyone, any partner, any man tell you you're not good enough, you're not worth it, because you are. You're a diamond, you're a queen, you're meant to be in this world, you're meant to raise your kids, you're meant to mentor the community, and there's so much more out there for you. And when someone tries and tells you you're not good enough or you're not worth it, don't believe it. Find the courage within you, deep within you, it's there. If you need time, take the time, but there are also resources out there which can help you in your healing process. There's places you can go to talk, seek counseling, which is confidential and private. No one needs to know. But the advice of encouragement is, I done it, I did it, I'm here, I'm happy, and yes, the sky's the limit. So if I could do it, so can you.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. And that is how we wrap up today's episode of a Coming Out podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, ladies. This has been very, very enlightening. And of course, thank you for watching. Stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you balance the notification on. And of course, stick around for the next episode of Coming Out. Na Kadina Kenabusi, Barababa Kulu Baba Dese, Barake the Queen of Pitori, and we are out.